The Panavia Tornado air defense variant was a long-range, twin-engine interceptor version of the swing-wing Panavia Tornado. The aircraft's first flight was on October 27, 1979, and it entered service in 1986. It was retired on March 22, 2011 by the Royal Air Force. It was also previously operated by the Italian Air Force and the Royal Saudi Air Force. The aircraft was originally designed to intercept Soviet bombers if they came in from the east to strike the United Kingdom. The Tornado ADV for the Royal Saudi Air Force were produced to F-3 standard. Both the RAF and RSAF have replaced the Tornado ADV with the Eurofighter Typhoon. Design and development. Origins. The Tornado ADV had its origins in an RAF requirement, which called for a long-range interceptor to replace the Lightning F-6 and Phantom FGR-2. The requirement for a modern interceptor was driven by the threat posed by the large Soviet long-range bomber fleet, in particular the supersonic Tupolev Tu-22M. From the beginning of the Tornado IDS's development in 1968, the possibility of a variant dedicated to air defense had been quietly considered. Several American aircraft had been evaluated, but found to be unsuitable. The concept was not attractive to other European partners, thus the UK proceeded alone. The development of the Tornado ADV was approved on March 4, 1976, with British Aerospace to provide 3 prototypes. The first prototype was rolled out at Wharton on August 9, 1979, before making its maiden flight on October 27, 1979. The second and third development aircraft made their first flights on July 18 and November 18, 1980, respectively. During the flight testing, the ADV demonstrated noticeably superior supersonic acceleration to the IDS, even while carrying a full weapons loadout. The testing of the prototypes was greatly aided by the use of real-time telemetry being broadcast back to ground technicians from aircraft in flight. The third prototype was primarily used in the testing of the new Marconi Ferranti AI-24 Foxhunter airborne interception radar. The Tornado ADV's differences compared to the IDS include a greater sweep angle on the wing gloves, and the deletion of their Kruger flaps, deletion of the port cannon, a longer radome for the Foxhunter radar, slightly longer air brakes and a fuselage stretch of 1.36 m to allow the carriage of 4 Ska-Flash semi-active radar homing missiles. The sketch was applied to the Tornado front fuselage being built by the UK, with a plug being added immediately behind the cockpit, which had the incidental benefit of reducing drag and making space for an additional fuel tank carrying 200 imperial gallons of fuel. The artificial feel of the flight controls was lighter on the ADV than on the IDS. Various internal avionics, pilot displays, guidance systems and software also differed, including an automatic wing sweep selector not fitted to the strike aircraft. The Tornado F-2 was the initial version of the Tornado ADV in Royal Air Force service, with 18 being built. It first flew on March 5, 1984 and was powered by the same B199 Mk103 engines used by the IDS Tornado, capable of 4 wing sweep settings, and fitted to carry only 2 underwing Sidewinder missiles. Serious problems were discovered with the Foxhunter radar, which meant that the aircraft were delivered with concrete and lead ballast installed in the nose as an interim measure until they could be fitted with the radar sets. The ballast was nicknamed Blue Circle, which was a play on the Rainbow Code's nomenclature, and a British brand of cement called Blue Circle. A total of 165 Tornado ADVs were ordered by Britain, the majority being the Tornado F-3. Further developments. The Tornado F-3 made its maiden flight on November 20, 1985. Enhancements over the F-2 included a B199 Mk104 engines, which were optimized for high-altitude use with longer afterburner nozzles, the capacity to carry 4 underwing Sidewinder missiles rather than 2, and automatic wing sweep control. The F-3's primary armament when it was introduced into service was the short-range Sidewinder and the medium-range Ska-Flash missiles, a British design based on the American AIM-7 Sparrow. In order to maintain the Tornado F-3 as an effective platform up to its planned out-of-service date of 2010, the Ministry of Defense initiated the Capabilities Sustainment Program. This project, announced on March 5, 1996, involved many elements, including the integration of ASRAAM and AIM-120 AMRAAM air-to-air missiles, and radar upgrades to improve multi-target engagement. Additionally, pilot and navigator displays would be improved, along with a replacement of several of the onboard computer systems. The CSP would see the removal of a non-standard state of aircraft. Various upgrades, in particular to the Foxhunter radar, had led to a situation described as fleets within fleets. The Foxhunter radar was a source of difficulties in the upgrade program, in particular the integration of the new AMRAAM missile. The Tornado F-3 was not able to exploit the full capabilities of either the AMRAAM or ASRAAM missiles. AMRAAM uses two mid-course updates after launch to refresh target information prior to its own seeker taking over. However, the CSP did not include the data link to provide this capability, as it was considered to be too expensive. In addition, the ASRAAM was not fully integrated, which prevented the full off-boresight capability of the missile being exploited. On June 8, 2001, the MOD signed a contract for a further upgrade to the F-3 force to allow these mid-course updates. The upgrade to give full AMRAAM capability, together with updated IFF, known as the AMRAAM Optimization Program, was incorporated in the remaining F-3 fleet between December 2003 and September 2006. A further upgrade, disclosed in early 2003, was the integration of the Alarm anti-radiation missile to enable several Tornado ADVs to conduct suppression of enemy air defenses missions. The F-3's existing radar warning receivers formed the basis of an emission location system, which can be employed to detect and locate operational radar systems in the aircraft's vicinity. These modified aircraft were redesignated Tornado EF-3 and operated by No. 11 Squadron RAF. Performance equals. The Tornado ADV was designed to serve in the role of an interceptor against the threat of Soviet bombers, rather than as an air superiority fighter for engaging in prolonged air combat maneuvering with various types of enemy fighters. In order to perform its anti-bomber primary mission, it was equipped with long-range beyond visual range missiles such as the Skaflash, and later the AMRAAM. The aircraft also had the ability to stay aloft for long periods and remain over the North Sea and Northern Atlantic in order to maintain its airborne patrol. The Ministry of Defense acknowledged the Tornado ADV was not significantly superior as an aircraft to the Phantoms it had replaced in the air defense role, however the capability of his weapon systems was a dramatic improvement. In particular the radar and onboard computer facilities. Compared with the Phantom, the ADV had greater acceleration, twice the range and loiter time, and was more capable of operating from short austere airstrips. The Tornado's advanced avionics meant that it could be more effective than previous British interceptors, such as the Lightning. While older aircraft were reliant on a network of ground-based radar stations, then-board Foxhunter radar was capable of performing much longer and wider scans of surrounding airspace. The Tornado could track and engage targets at far greater distances. The Tornado also had the ability to share its radar and targeting information with other aircraft via JTIDS Link 16 and was one of the first aircraft to have a digital data bus, used for the transmission of data between board computers. Operational history Royal Air Force The Tornado F-2 was first delivered to the RAF on November 5, 1984, and its short career came to an end after the Tornado F-3 entered service. These aircraft were used primarily for training by No. 229 Operational Conversion Unit RAF until they were placed in storage. The F-2s were intended to be updated to Tornado F-2A standard but only one F-2A, the Tornado Integrated Avionics Research Aircraft was converted, having been customized by QinetiQ for unmanned aerial vehicle trials at MOD Boscombe Down. Additionally, in 2007, QinetiQ rented 4 Tornado F-3s from the MOD to support weapons testing activities. Entering service in July 1986, 152 Tornado F-3s were ordered. The Tornado F-3 made its combat debut in the 1991 Gulf War with 18 aircraft deployed to Dhahran, Saudi Arabia. The aircraft deployed to the region were later upgraded in a crash program with improved radar and engines, better defensive countermeasures and several adaptations to the weapons systems to improve combat performance in the Iraqi theater. However, they still lacked modern IFF and secure communications equipment. They therefore flew patrols further back from Iraqi airspace where encounters with enemy aircraft were less likely, and did not get the opportunity to engage any enemy aircraft. From August 1990 to March 1991, the RAF's F-3 detachment flew more than 2,000 combat air patrol sorties. Following the Gulf War, the RAF maintained a small squadron of F-3s in Saudi Arabia to continue routine patrols of Iraqi no-fly zones. The Tornado F-3 saw further combat service, from 1993 to 1995 as escort fighters in Operation Deny Flight over Bosnia, and in 1999 flying combat air patrols during Operation Allied Force in Yugoslavia. During these extended overseas deployments, the F-3 proved troublesome to maintain at operational readiness when based outside the UK. Following lengthy delays in the Eurofighter program to develop a successor to the F-3 Interceptor, in the late 1990s the RAF initiated a major upgrade program to enhance the aircraft's capabilities, primarily by integrating several newer air-to-air missiles. In 2003, the Tornado F-3 was one of the assets used in Operation Telic, Britain's contribution to the Iraq War. An expeditionary force composed of 43 and 111 squadrons was deployed to the region to carry out offensive counter-air operations. The Tornado F-3s of Lucas Fighter Wing operated all over Iraq, including missions over and around Baghdad, throughout Operation Telic. Due to a lack of airborne threats materializing in the theater, the F-3s were withdrawn and returned to European bases that same year. As part of delivering security in a changing world, the British government's 2003 Defence White Paper, on July 21, 2004, Defence Secretary Jeff Hoon detailed plans to reduce the number of Tornado F-3 squadrons by 1 to 3 squadrons. This represented 16 aircraft and was the first stage in the transition to the F-3's replacement, the Eurofighter Typhoon, which entered operational service with the RAF in 2005. In April 2009, it was announced that the Tornado F-3 force would be reduced to one squadron of 12 aircraft in September 2009. The last operational Tornado F-3s in RAF service were retired when No. 111 Squadron RAF, located at RAF Lucas, was disbanded on March 22, 2011. Kinetiq's 4 F-3s remained flying after the RAF's retirement of the type, being used for testing of the MBDA Meteor air-to-air missile, and thus were the only flying examples in the UK. The final mission was flown on June 20, 2012, and the last 3 flown to RAF Leeming for scrapping on July 9, 2012. Italian Air Force In the early 1990s, the Italian Air Force identified a requirement for a fighter to boost its air defense capabilities pending introduction of the Eurofighter Typhoon. These fighters were to operate alongside the service's obsolescent F-104 ASA starfighters. The Tornado ADV was selected from, amongst others, the F-16. On November 17, 1993, Italy signed an agreement with the RAF to lease 24 Tornado F-3s from the RAF for a period of 10 years. At this time the Eurofighter Typhoon was expected to begin entry into service around 2000. First training of AMI pilots began in March 1995 at RAF Coningsby while technicians gained experience at RAF Cottesmore and Coningsby. The first aircraft was accepted on July 5, 1995 and flown to its Italian base the same day. Delivery of the first batch was completed by 1996. These aircraft were deployed at Gioia del Colle in southern Italy. The second batch was delivered between February and July 1997. These aircraft were of a slightly higher specification. In early 1997, the AMI cancelled a series of scheduled upgrades to its Tornado fleet, stating that it was placing priority for funding on the developing Eurofighter instead. In 2000, with major delays hampering the Eurofighter, the AMI began a search for another interim fighter. While the Tornado itself was considered, any long-term extension to the lease would have involved upgrade to RAF CSP standard and thus was not considered cost-effective. In February 2001, Italy announced its arrangement to lease 35 F-16s from the United States. The AMI returned its Tornadoes to the RAF, with the final aircraft arriving at RAF St. Athan on December 7, 2004. One aircraft was retained by the Italian Air Force for static display purposes. Royal Saudi Air Force . On September 26, 1985, Saudi Arabia and Britain signed a Memorandum of Understanding towards what would be widely known as the Al-Yamama Arms Deal, for the provision of various military equipment and services. The September 1985 deal involved the purchase of a large number of Tornado aircraft, including the Tornado ADV variant, along with armaments, radar equipment, spare parts and a pilot training program for the inbound fleet, in exchange for providing 600,000 barrels of oil per day over the course of several years. The first Al-Yamama agreement ordered 24 Tornado ADVs and 48 Tornado IDSs. The RSAF received its first ADV on February 9, 1989. Historian Anthony Kordsman commented that the Tornado ADV did not prove to be a successful air defense fighter. The RSAF's experience with the first 8 Tornado ADVs was negative. In 1990, the RSAF signed several agreements with the U.S. to later receive deliveries of the McDonnell Douglas F-15E Strike Eagle, and thus had a reduced need for the Tornado ADV. Saudi Arabia chose to convert further orders for up to 60 Tornado ADVs to the IDS Strike variant instead. In 1991, during Operation Desert Storm over neighboring Iraq, RSAF Tornado ADVs flew 451 air defense sorties, operating in conjunction with RSAF F-15s. In 2006, it was announced that, in addition to Saudi Arabia's contract to purchase the Eurofighter Typhoon, both the Tornado IDS and ADV fleets would undergo a £2.5 billion program of upgrades, allowing them to remain in service to at least 2020. The Eurofighter has now replaced the Tornado ADV in the air defense role. Variants: Tornado F2, two-seat all-weather interceptor fighter aircraft, powered by two turbo-Union B199-34 or Mk103 turbofan engines. Initial production version, 18 built. Tornado F2A, F2 upgrade to F3 standard, but retaining F2 engines, 1 built. Tornado F3, improved version, powered by two turbo-Union B199-34 or Mk104 engines, with automatic wing sweep control, increased AIM-9 carriage and avionics upgrades. Tornado EF3, unofficial designation for F-3 aircraft modified with alarm missile capability. Operators: Italy, Italian Air Force, Saudi Arabia, Royal Saudi Air Force, United Kingdom, Royal Air Force. Specifications: data from Jane's All the World's Aircraft 1993 Euro 94, general characteristics, crew, 2, length, 18.68 meters, wingspan, at 25° wing position, 13.91 m, at 67° wing position, 8.60 m. Height, 5.95 m, wing area, 26.60 mass squared, empty weight, 14,500 kilograms, max takeoff weight, 27,986 kilograms, power plant, TUA, Turbo Union B199-34 or augmented turbofan, dry thrust, 40.5 kN each, thrust with afterburner, 73.5 kN each. Performance, maximum speed, Mach 2.2 at 9,000 m/30,000 feet altitude. 800 knots, 1,482 km per hour, 921 miles per hour indicated airspeed near sea level, combat radius, more than 1,853 km, more than 556 km supersonic, ferry range, 4,265 km with 4 external tanks, endurance, 2 hours combat air patrol at 560 Euro 740 km from base, Service ceiling, 15,240 m. Armament, guns, 1 27mm Mauser BK-27 revolver cannon with 180 rounds. Hardpoints, 10 total holding up to 9,000 kilograms of payload. The two inner wing pylons have shoulder launch rails for 2 short-range AIM each, 4 AIM-9 Sidewinder or AIM-132 ASRAAM, 4 British Aerospace Skyflash or AIM-120 AMRAAM, others, up to 2 drop tanks for extended range loitering time. Up to 4 drop tanks for ferry roll. Avionics, GEC Marconi for anti-AI-24 Foxhunter radar. See also. Related development, Panavia Tornado IDS, Panavia Tornado ECR, aircraft of comparable role, configuration and era, Grumman F-14 Tomcat, McDonnell Douglas F-15 Eagle, Mikoyan Gurevich MiG-23, Mikoyan MiG-31. References, Notes. Bibliography. External links, Panavia website, Tornado@fas.org, Tornado ADV at aerospaceorg.org, unofficial Panavia Tornado site.